Welcome back. You're watching People and Politics here on AM Live. The conversation continues apace. I'm holding court this morning with Dr. Boni Khalwale, who is the Deputy Leader of Ford Kenya. Also, we do have with us Dr. Esele Simiyu, who is a Member of Parliament from Tongareni and also the General Secretary of Ford Kenya. We have also Kembi Gitura, who is a former Senator of Murang'a. Also, Jacomi Dio, the former Member of Parliament from Gem and the Deputy Leader in the 11th National Assembly. Also with us is Senator Isaac Mwaura, who is a nominated senator. Senator Matangi is away, and also is Senator Aaron Cheriot in Moscow, right? If he's going to watch World Cup or not, I do not know. But of course, maybe it's a providential opportunity for him to be in Moscow at this time. Let's just continue with the conversation here. Before we took a short break, before we went into the international news, Boni Khalwale, you're saying we should continue with this particular discussion. Is pivotal, it is important. Before we look deeper on also the parliamentary committees and the allegations of bribery.
Deputy Speaker Kembi has said the issue of self-importance as the governors think about themselves. And I want to blame the office of the president. On the very first day in 2013, after the election, that is when we created the wrong president. We allowed on that day, after governors had just been announced winners, to be given sirens, police escorts, and within a very short time, they had agreed with the president. They were going to be referred to as His Excellency. They were given escort cars, and a decision was made that governors' residences should be constructed for them. These guys stopped viewing themselves as servants of the people, but they became immediately bosses of the people. I come from a place called Malinya, which is exactly 8 kilometers from the headquarters of the county government of Kakamega. Why would I find it very difficult to come from my home, either on boda or on foot or in my own vehicle, to go to the office in Kakamega and serve the people of Kakamega as the governor of Kakamega? Instead, they should remove me from my home in Malinya and put up a palatial governor's residence for me to stay in for the 5 years or so that I would be governor. Mm-hmm. It is the wrong thing. People should look at governors as servants and not people who are supposed to load it down on them. Allow me to also blame the Senate and my brother Senator. I am sorry that people walked out on your motion when you wanted to debate corruption. What did you want to talk about? You were not sent to the Senate to go and debate corruption. You were sent to the Senate to go and fight corruption. You have the institutions within Senate that give you the wherewithal to fight corruption. Look, the man you seem to be thanking, called Orengo, who supported your motion, it was hypocrisy. Because once upon a time, we made a senatorial decision, and Kembi Gitura was in the chair, that the governor of Kakamega receives a warrant of arrest from the Committee of Public Accounts for refusal to come before Parliament. And Orengo voted and said he should be arrested. The following day, Orengo was in court defending the same governor so that he doesn't honor the warrant of arrest. So don't convert our Senate into a talk shop. Take advantage of the resources at your hand. Don't behave like the Committee of Agriculture when it was investigating sugar. Do something. Do something. That's what Kenyans want. And I'm very proud of the first Senate. Kembi, you'll remember very well, we resolved and we impeached a governor, the governor of Embu. The courts fought us, but at the very end, the country doesn't know that the courts then eventually agreed with the Senate that Wambora had been impeached. If IEBC had been working, they should have found that the guy was not fit to hold public office. He should not have run for the second round as governor of Embu.
All right. Maybe we can give a closing remarks on the governors and the immunity, and we've centered now on the issue of bribery with the parliamentary committees as well. If you have something, Dr. Esele, on this, very briefly, we wind up on that.
Yeah, the issue of bribery of parliamentary committees, as I said earlier, has been an ongoing thing for a very long time, in the sense that given the oversight role, some have used it as what you'd call a rent-seeking opportunity. If you recall, one time the late minister, what was his name, who said that he was surprised that he has seen people come to Parliament wearing suits like they slept in them. But after a short while, they're in designer suits and designer shoes. Where are they getting the money from? So this thing has actually dogged Parliament for a very long time. And it is very important because Parliament should be part of the solution, not part of the problem. But when you start getting these accusations of bribery within the committees, then it means that Parliament therefore has become part of the problem and not part of the solution. And that's a dangerous state, especially when we are fighting runaway corruption in this country. And as I said earlier, Parliament should be among the institutions that are fighting corruption.
Right, but how baked in the cake is it in Parliament right now? Even with the previous Parliament, we want to know how the parliamentary committees are actually...
What we are looking at here
compromise
is a much bigger problem. I think we are looking at, right from the election time, who is allowed to stand for elections, you know, to represent people in this country. We start from there. Because remember, many people who have been caught up in these corruption accusations have actually ended up standing for elections and being elected to powerful offices in this country. So the problem starts there. We want to sanitize Parliament to make it clean and do the oversight role properly. We need to start from that election time. Because you must admit that when such an accusation happens, and if it were true, then the whole of Parliament is tarnished. Whether you are doing the right thing or you are doing the wrong thing, you are all lumped together. So it's important that as the nation decides to fight against corruption, then let's go all the way so that we ensure that these people do not get a chance at public office again, including elective offices.
Right. Senator Kembi.
Well, first of all, Debal, even before I talk about Parliament, which is a very important topic, let me say this about devolution. I strongly believe that devolution is still the best thing that has happened to this country. What we need to do is to fine-tune it so that it goes to the benefit of the people. And even as you talk about governors with self-importance and a sense of entitlement,
yes,
I must say that there are some governors I believe are doing very well and are dedicated to working for the good of the people in their counties. You can count them maybe with a few fingers of your right hand, but they are there. And they should be encouraged, and we must continue talking about the success stories. Because devolution is not just all about failures. There are some counties that are benefiting from devolution because the governors and their governments are working towards that end. And they're not just thinking about their stomachs. Sadly, in a lot of places, corruption is still rampant. And that is why you find that the money that is voted into the counties is ending up in people's pockets. But it's going to catch up with them because chicken have this funny habit. They always come home to roost. And it's going to catch up with a lot of people when the chips are down, because I think Kenyans are sick and tired of talking about the same story about corruption and nothing happening,
yes,
and then people tending to glorify corruption. It's the same thing about parliamentary committees. For those of us, and everybody here has been to Parliament, has sat in Parliament, most of the work of Parliament is done in committees. And they used to be, there was a time they were closed-door committees,
yes,
but now they are public. And suddenly you find that when you're talking about sugar, everybody is there. There's even a bigger quorum than sometimes you find in the chamber,
yes,
itself, because people are taking interest. Why are they taking so much interest? That is the question that we need to ask. I was very happy with the Speaker Justin Muturi when he said that committees are supposed to be doing serious parliamentary work, not going to cuddle and hug and kiss, you see, as if you're trying to get something out of somebody. Because when you're talking about sugar, and this thing about sugar, Debal, we still don't have an answer. The last time I was here, we discussed it.
Yes.
And I remember saying, like I will say again today, that I'm still waiting to hear an apology from Minister Aden and Minister Matiang'i, that they have sat together and then come and tell us why they made a statement that was contradicting each other, because that was failing in collective responsibility. We can't have one minister coming to tell us there is mercury in sugar, another one says there is no mercury in sugar, and nothing happens. Because it means they don't know what they're talking about. Because at the end of the day, that Kenyan person in Muranga,
Yes.
in Kakamega, you see, all they want to know is there copper and sugar in my and mercury in my sugar? That's what they want to know. They want to believe in the systems that work. So when you find two cabinet secretaries fighting over an issue like this one, and they're not brave enough to come and apologize to the people and tell them, we said this in the heat of the moment, but now we can tell you for sure this is the actual position, is ridiculous. So coming back to parliamentary committees, I can just conclude and say this, that it seems like common knowledge now. It was there in the 9th Parliament when I was there. It was, the allegations were there when I was in the 11th Parliament, and they are still there, that although work is supposed to be done in committees, a lot of times there is a lot of compromise in these committees. Boni Halwale will tell you, because he's chaired the Parliamentary Accounts, the Public Accounts Committee, the pressure under which I'm sure he must have been at certain moments. Did he succumb to the pressure or did he not? That is the question. Because at the end of the day, you'll be judged alone as a parliamentarian. Did you take a bribe or did you not take a bribe? Because it's also not true that all members of parliament take bribes. It's not true. Simia Eseli will tell you, it's not true. There are people who go to committee meetings to do what is right on the issues they are dealing with. But there are those who go there hoping that there'll be a brown envelope. Yeah? There'll be a brown envelope. And then there are those who go to the committee. And this is the saddest part of it, because this is still the worst corruption. They go to the committee, they sign the attendance sheet, and then walk out. They go to another committee, sitting in the same morning, sign attendance committee, and walk out. What they are doing is they are stealing from the people, because they are not sitting to deliberate on the issues that are supposed to be discussed in those committees, but they have earned 5,000 shillings or 7,000, whatever number it is, that they are paid to appear in a committee meeting. So it's not just about taking money from somebody suspected to have brought in fake illicit sugar or counterfeit sugar or contraband sugar. Even when you sign attendance and then leave the room and go to another committee, sign another attendance, that is theft and that is corruption. And no, that should also be pursued by the Speaker and by the people responsible in Parliament, because, like I said earlier, theft is theft and corruption is corruption. And you cannot pretend that because you signed, therefore you appeared and attended to the matters of the committee. So it is there.
It is there.
It is there and it has to be dealt with. And the Speaker of the National Assembly and also of the Senate have to be extremely vigilant about these issues, because then otherwise the citizens will continue to complain about what is happening in parliamentary committees, where, like I said, is where most of the work of the parliament is supposed to be done.
So no matter how it's licensed, theft is theft. Let's hear from Geopolitical.
Dibal, you can never get good leaders from a bad society. Your leaders are only as good as you are. They're chosen from amongst you. The way we have to deal with a much bigger problem in this country. The amount of corruption that is involved in the choosing of leaders gives us the very thieves that we deserve. That is the truth. Look at, like, I was a member of the ODM party. When you hear how MCAs were paying 100,000 shillings to be given somebody's right, how MPs got there, how you go to URP, you go to PNU. When the process is wrong, the end result can never be good. So Kenya, we need a change in our society. We need to reorganize society. For example, Parliament, you cannot have any meaningful deliberation in Parliament as long as you have 290 constituencies. As long as you have additional 47 women reps. The number is simply too large to talk in 3 hours. The number is simply too large to do anything meaningful in even if you gave them a whole day. They are also human beings. So I think we need to deal with the bigger issue. And the big issue is, now that we are talking that we want to deal with corruption, because the underlying carpet here is corruption. Now that we want to deal with it, let us deal with it in law. Let us, first of all, figure out how do we get good leaders. What is the process? The way this other one we have tried, it has failed. Therefore, we must change the process of identifying leaders. If the state is corrupt, the political parties are corrupt.
Oh, very corrupt.
Yeah. Actually, now because of democracy, because we are a multi-party democracy, now we have many corrupt institutions that we want to go through to run a clean government.
Yes.
I don't think it is going to work. I think we need, and how I hope the team that Uhuru and Raila put together understand that, because we must retract our steps and say things which are not working. For example, up to including the education system. Is the system working for us? Why do you have, nothing is working in this country. So I personally believe we have a perfect opportunity to take sector by sector, but particularly in this issue of corruption in parliament and corruption at large, we must deal with the process of electioneering. Then we must deal with the issue of system of government, so that we give people their roles and hold them accountable. You see, like the governors are saying they need immunity. In other words, their role is not properly coming out to them. They are not understanding it, or they are failing to understand it. We must have a system where you cannot sit and face Kenyans for failing to understand your role. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's hear finally from Isaac Maora on this.
Yeah, you know, Debal, I want to really agree with Honorable Jakoya on many fronts, and say the challenge we have in this country is hero worshipping. So that people at some point think that they are demigods. They are small people who cannot be questioned. The same way we used to do with the presidency, we still do with the presidency. If a president appears in a function, you see how the tone changes. Now governors are experiencing the same. Every day they are being told they are the right ones, they are the right ones. They are chosen from above, from God. That is actually a lie. Hosea 8:4 says that God says clearly, you have appointed leaders I don't approve of. So it's not true that leaders come from above. In fact, if I can be more philosophical, if you look at the Israelites, when they decided to have a king, they were warned that these kings would take taxes from them. And Winston Churchill says, and they even take away wives, daughters to make them wives. That's what we have, even sexual immorality in leadership, that corrupts leaders. Winston Churchill even said that to imagine that you can tax your country into prosperity is like a man standing in a bucket and waiting to lift the bucket using the handle. That's what is happening. You have governors like Waigoro, you know, who all of us knew was accused of what do you call it, NYS. Then she wants to build herself a mansion of 100 million in Kirinyaga, in the rural village there. You have Kingi and his deputy, two corrupt individuals, and I would dare say that because how do you tell us you want to build a deputy governor's mansion with 214 million? And then you have Nyandarua, wanting to build a county headquarter with 800 million shillings. And just to tell my brother, Senator Khalwale, I am doing what I need to do. Even to have that motion in Parliament to discuss corruption was a tall order. It kept on being postponed because some people never wanted to be discussed. So I did my part and will continue to do my part. In fact, what is the need, Debal, of us declaring our wealth and then we hide what we have declared? Debal, the issue we are having, and we need to discuss this, is that if we do not deal with the issue of election campaign financing, there is no way we are going to deal with corruption. Because all of us, you have to find ways of surviving. And people who have stolen money, you know, going to the constituency and being on the ground requires resources. But the thieves are so liquid. They are all over the place, terrorizing every other good leader who is supposed to be working now, moving around with you know, that is where the problem is. And the people are so impoverished. If you give them 50 shillings and 100 shillings, you know, if you find, in Kikuyu there's a saying, if you find a hungry person and you give them food, they may even call you father or mother because they are really desperate. Just like Esau in the Bible sold his birthright for some meal. That is where we are. Kenya has been ranked as 8th with the highest number of poor people who earn who live on less than 190 shillings per day or thereabout, $1.9. So we have a mismatch, and the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poor. And it is not because these people are entrepreneurs. We are not having people who are inventing you know, things like the Silicon Valley. It is just because they have access to the public kitty. That is our budget making process. So really, we have to speak truth to power, and it boils down to the individual. Let me give you an example as I conclude of this matter. I was approached recently, or rather we were approached recently by a very senior person who is known in this country. I'll not mention his name because that's the truth. And he complained about some laws that are coming to Parliament. Then later on, his PA came telling us, oh, please go to meet this person, go to meet these people. I told my colleague, Senator, I don't think I want to go because I can suspect this person is up to something. We went there, we had a meal, then he doled out some money and gave us, where Maura Shikahi, where Nandi Shikahi. And then, I mean, later on, I said, what is this money for? I said, no, Maura, you know, you are a self-made person. Put the money in an envelope, wrote a note, mwambia chukua pesa yako. I returned the money to him. Very, you know, and this is a senior person in front of people, or because of African culture, you don't want to embarrass an older man. You know, those value systems. But I returned the money to him, and he must feel ashamed because this idea of thinking that, oh, you can sponsor some members to Parliament, or you can put a price on individuals. I'd rather die a poor person. I'd rather even survive one time in Parliament, but we shall speak truth. In any case, 7 out of 10 MPs don't come back. There must be people who are willing to pay the price for this country to move forward.
All right, thank you. All right, I think that's a good note to end on that, and we try and see also what is on the front page of the Daily Nation today.
Why don't you allow me to ask President Uhuru one question?
Oh, you want to ask the president one question?
Yes. President Uhuru, you have to be clear. You're sending mixed signals. This thing of Switzerland, now, I'm not too sure if he's playing PR. Why? Because in August 2015, and President Uhuru, you remember, Obama was here. You signed a US anti-corruption agreement of 29 points. And that 29-point agreement is there. Nothing has happened. Obama has stopped being president. You had said, amongst other things, that cabinet secretaries who are undergoing investigations and blah, 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 will not have a chance to work in your cabinet in the second term of your office. They are still there. Others have moved on. They have become governors. Is it PR or is committed to fighting corruption? The Obama agreement.
I think that's a good question that you're asking the president. But I also think, in fairness to the president and to yourself, Boni, it is futile to expect the president alone to fight corruption. Okay. It's something that all of us must do. If every member of parliament who is bribed with 100, I don't know who was trying to bribe Senator Mwaura and how much he was being bribed for. If all of them can return that money in an end and tell him, I don't want your money.
Yes.
Because you're not going to move me to do the wrong thing. If everybody agreed, because with all the laws that we have, with the new constitution that we have, with the commissions that we have, which are supposed to do all these things,
yes,
I think sometimes, and I'm not defending it, but I think sometimes you expect too much from the president. It's like you expect that he can do an abracadabra and there'll be no corruption. It is the duty of everybody in this nation, starting with you, Boni, and myself and everybody else, to fight corruption. Because it's a serious threat to our nationhood. It is indeed. But if you expect that the president is the only person who is going to do it, I think then you're putting it too far, and I mean making it too difficult. And that is one way of saying that corruption will not end, because we don't want it to end, because it cannot be a one-man show.
But hasn't Boni done his bit? Boni was the chairman of PAC. He was kicked out by the crooks. Yes. They didn't want him there. The same way Mwaura has done his bit, and from what I know about you over many years, I don't find you in those corridors. You are not that type. But the Constitution, the Bible Uhuru Kenyatta held, was to fight corruption and any other thing that is defined there, to make sure our state is run correctly. The buck stops with President Uhuru Kenyatta.
It may stop with him.
No, but let me just give you a chance.
Okay.
What the... what do you, I'm sure Dibali will give you. But don't, let us not turn this thing into a biblical college or lesson. This is a constitutional, this thing is embedded in our constitution. Whose responsibility it is to do this is President Uhuru Kenyatta and the presidency. Now, everybody else borrows power from him. For us, we are a private citizen on this table, except for Eseli and Mwaura. And Mwaura has done his bit. What am I saying? We must only give him ideas. He had, Honorable Senator Kembi, they had an opportunity with Raila the other day when they were making that team. They should have looked for the people on this panel to help them reorganize. You know, what do you expect of a leader who has bought his way? How can somebody who is a product of corruption even feel the sense of responsibility to fight corruption? The only person who must do it and is paid to do it and is expected to do it is President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And what he's doing now, we all must support. We can only support. In fact, most of it, we can only pray for it.
I think the problem in Kenya is that when something is very obvious for everybody to see, you are browbeaten with propaganda to accept it as normal. I'm saying this in view of something like the standard gauge railway.
Yes.
This thing costs us 1 billion per kilometer to build. 1 billion per kilometer. And now they are telling us it's costing us 1 billion per month to run it. Now, it's there, right there, before our eyes. But we have been browbeaten to accept it as an infrastructural development, which yes, we needed a standard gauge railway, but not at any price. Yeah, so these are things, as a nation, unless we face these truths. Because somebody would be scared to talk about the SGR because he feels maybe his party leader might not like it, things like that. But to me, that is the most glaring anomaly when we talk about fighting corruption. Because it looks like we needed this standard gauge railway at any cost. 1 billion per kilometer to construct. It's locomotive, monotrack. Now to electrify it, we need several billions again.
To electrify.
And that is why
40 billion to electrify.
No, 264 billion.
To electrify.
To electrify.
And it's monotrack.
It's not even employing our people. You know, the last time a black Kenyan drove that train was the day the president used it to Mombasa. Now it is all Chinese workers, and I'm told they cannot even share a meal with our people.
If you look at page,
you know, how can just Chinese?
If you look at page 2,
let me
Just
say
a
this.
moment. If you look at
page
yes,
2 of the Star,
we have ended up in our country where projects are overpriced, and let's say the truth.
yes,
If you look at the Dongokundu bypass, how can 10 kilometers cost 11 billion? Dongokundu. Even if the road is, yes, even 10 kilometers costing 11 billion. How, even if it is passing under the sea? You know, let's say the truth. We have started having a situation where we have moved money from millions now to billions.
right.
But also in the same thing, let me say this, that people must, Jacob is saying we should not use it biblical, but I'll go that way even if we have a bishop at the EACC. We have to encourage good intentions, because if you look at the whole architecture of our country, it is actually predicated on corruption.
Yes.
Even some of it is so systemic that even when we do it, we don't realize we are being corrupt. So, but we have to encourage the president, and we have to take personal responsibility so that the small, sparkles of positivity can keep this rolling, And I really admire the way the president said, even if his own brother, Moho Kenyatta, is involved, so be it. It has to start from somewhere.
Exactly.
So let us just do our part.
We do about it. I think also you've mentioned that, and Victor in the Star has this particular editorial cartoon today, very telling about the SGR and also our Chinese partnership. Actually, from the touch screen, that is where we have Victor. That is Kenya Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China. I leave it for you to decipher on this.
Painting the country red.
They are really painting the country
red. And we have
red.
our toy, the SGR.
Our toy is the SGR, actually.
But you see, the ball.
You know the ball, eh?
The ball.
Oh, did
The
you-
ball.
It is important,
The ball.
eh?
I had the
Yes.
the ball. I like it when Jacoyo says we must support the president, because you see, we cannot appear to be contradictory in what we are saying. And what I said is that you don't expect the president. Yes, the buck is said to stop with the president. But we are the same people and a referendum who passed the new constitution. And you should read this constitution because it's so easy. Here it is. And at every corner pertaining to a commission or an independent body, it says they shall not be directed by anybody. That's what it says. So the judiciary, where Justice Maraga is the Chief Justice, a man for whom I have the greatest respect, I went to university with him, will not be directed by anybody in making a decision. So we have a slow process of the way to do legal issues. We have anticipatory bail. So I suspect I might be arrested. I go to court first. I get anticipatory bail, which is only known about in Kenya. What do you expect the president to do? The statement I like from Jacoyo and from this panel is that we must support the president in his fight against corruption, because at least that accepts that he's doing what is right in that fight against corruption. But unless and until everybody does their part, until the courts of this country do their part, and not because they are governed by the handshake, it's because they believe it's the right thing to do, and we stop to tribalize corruption and things like those. When we do, when Maura returns his money and every other committee member in Parliament returns bribes, and we return bribes ourselves, who are also private citizens, as has been said, then we are making a step in the right direction. And that is the only way we can say that we are supporting the president in his fight against corruption. But you cannot be supporting the president if all you are saying all the time is that the buck stops with him, and therefore I can continue to be corrupt until he catches up with me. The president is not going to catch up with you, but the president can only make use of the institutions that we have created under the Constitution. That is the point. That's the point I was trying to make. It's not about defending a position, but it's about defending the Constitution and defending an intention to fight corruption.
Senator Kembi,
because you cannot blow hot and cold at the same time.
You are right when you refer to the Constitution, and at the same time the need for us to support the president. Having said that, we should go a step further and tell the president that the institutions that you find in the constitutions, he should make a deliberate effort to populate those institutions with men and women who can deliver. We have already had experience in this country of people like Michuki. Michuki, under the same constitution, he brought order to the Ministry of Transport. Michuki brought order to the Ministry of Environment. Matiang'i, when he was doing very well at education, at the beginning some of us started doubting him and criticizing him. They overpraised him, and then they moved him. They have taken him to internal security, where he's completely lost in mercury and copper and all manner in all manner of heavy metals. Kembi, let me tell you, supposing for argument's sake today, the president was to pick one, Kembi Kitura, former High Commissioner of Kenya in Belgium, as the minister. Yes, and the minister, as the minister, cabinet secretary in charge of devolution. You would deliver, because A, you have got integrity, B, you are a highly reputable lawyer, but more importantly, the experience you picked in Belgium, where devolution really works, where a devolved government actually donates money to the state, you would be delivering in that docket of devolution. It's just not enough for him to want to look for a friend and what have you. We must go around and look for people who can deliver.
Remember, these people are vetted by Parliament, right?
Yes.
So Parliament, again, has a very important role to play. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
First of all, the president has the mandate, the legal mandate, to nominate people to his cabinet. And that is, you cannot take that from him. Because even the next president and the next president will have the same legal mandate. Yeah, because he must trust and know the people that he or she wants to work with. But the reason they go to Parliament to be vetted is so that Parliament can now go through the things that they need to go through and then make a decision that this person is not a proper and fit person. Instead, you find that all the people taken to Parliament to be vetted are passed. So that's a question that needs to be asked. I don't think tyranny of numbers has anything to do with it because the same way that Maura tells us he returned, and I think he should tell us how much it was and from who, because he returned his money. It's the same way he can say, I do not agree with this position being taken, and I will not take that position. So supermajority is not necessarily, should not necessarily make things follow through if you truly don't believe in what you are doing.
Thank you. All right, so back to that editorial cartoon that we had from Victor. Did we have a bad deal when it comes to SGR, or do we have also the Chinese government really overplaying the hand as far as SGR is concerned, if we may just pick up that editorial cartoon? Bone Khalwale.
Yes.
Do you think this negotiation was skewed in favor of the Chinese government? Because it seems also in the balance of trade when it comes to Kenya also and China trading, it is heavily skewed to advantage of China. Was it a bad deal from your own estimation?
You know, you can't add anything to this cartoon. And I recall while sitting on this panel some months back, Professor Herman Manyora put it so well. In fact, I wish you could ask the library just to replay that thing of one minute.
It is financed by the Chinese.
It is financed by the Chinese.
It is serviced by the Chinese.
The Chinese.
And
the locomotives are run by
the Chinese. It is okay. The deal sticks.
I think I would like you to replay it because I wouldn't put it as well as Professor Herman Manyora put it, and for that reason, the bigger picture here is not the toy. Is it on the screen?
Yeah, the cartoon back, please.
It is not the toy that you are seeing there.
Yes.
The bigger picture there is two things. One, the word Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, and then Kenya having been painted red. They are now taking over. They have even gone further. They are attempting now to take over our politics. That's why young Uhuru and his other colleagues in Jubilee are being trained by the People's
CCP, Chinese Communist Party.
Chinese Communist Party, and they are even sharing the color red. I tell you, the Mau Mau heroes, majority of whom came from Kembe Kitura's community. True. Yes, they must be turning in their graves. Right. That was not the intention.
And it's very interesting also.
This is neo-colonialization.
Yeah, it is interesting also because in this month's Nairobi Business Monthly, he's holding this particular warning. He says, beware of the Beijing debt trap. And it says the threat that China envisages for Africa is little more than a cruel exploitation cooked up between Chinese state planners and corrupt African leaders. And you can see this is how it looks.
I think,
Dr. Isela.
I think what's happening here, if people were to read the book Confessions of this
economic hitman.
So yeah, Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Yes.
Actually, what's happening here is history is sort of repeating itself, but now colored with the color of China. The same thing the West did to Africa, China is now doing it in a different way. There is one animal we introduced in our procurement laws. That animal is called government to government. That animal is going to eat us up. If you remember the elections of 2013, there was that government-to-government thing about the Canadian thing. And if you go through all these things, including the SGR and even some roads, now you get that government-to-government thing. And that government-to-government thing is where you find the inflated costs. Now, for the Chinese part, this Chinese company you get a government-to-government agreement, and this Chinese company takes a loan from their bank, China Exim Bank, comes and does the work, and then you pay at a very high interest. So actually, this thing, if we are not careful, we are actually slowly mortgaging this country to China. It is a fact. It's not. I'm not being jingoistic. It's not misplaced nationalism. True. No, it's not misplaced Chinaism. We are actually at risk. If we default on any of those loans, the Chinese will come and say, okay, the land covered by the SGR is ours until you pay. So anybody coming in here, they did that to, was it Sri Lanka?
Yeah, they are doing it now.
They are next the port of,
laying a claim on the port of Mombasa.
they claimed they took over the port in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, I think.
And I don't know why we are not waking up to this. It's not just about patriotism and national jingoism. No, this is about economics. And I know we've got serious economists employed by the government. Why don't these economists stand up and talk?
Do you know, Dibar, Engineer Gumbo raised this issue in Parliament, and we really talked about it. Do you know there is no Kenyan engineer that worked on the SGR or is working on the SGR? Even the engineers, just to put these chumas on the ground, they have Chinese doing it. Now they have Chinese trained drivers. Now somebody must explain to Kenyans what is the interest of the Chinese, this SGR people, on the port of Mombasa. Because somebody is very busy selling this country. And we must resist. What, to me, I think is important, shouldn't it have made more sense for the conceivers of this SGR thing, and I'm sure it was conceived even way before the Jubilee government, and now they came and partook. Why shouldn't it have been okay to use just a fraction of this money to sort out this traffic mess in Nairobi? Shouldn't it have made more sense to have Thika Road extended all the way to Isiolo so that all this traffic is taken care of? Then you go all the way even up to Nakuru, where most of our agriculture is. I do not understand, and I can tell you, Tanzania is doing the same exact distance from Dodoma to Dar es Salaam, their own SGR, at less than a third of the cost of our SGR. Lastly, can somebody who loves accounting like Boni Halwale, who loves investigation, check for Kenyans, where was the section of the SGR from Nairobi to Naivasha tendered? Whose idea was it? It was announced on a Sunday, and the works commenced. Yesterday I was flying over from Kisumu. It is nearly in Naivasha. Who is doing this thing? Who is doing it? Because somebody is seriously stealing from Kenyans.
Thank you.
All right. I think let me make a comment there.
Briefly, as also we are beginning to wind up, I want to also play that particular clip by Haman that we had here.
Yes. I think the Kibaki administration said we are looking east. And Paul Kagame recently said that if we continue to wait for the West to be babysitters, we are not going to go anywhere. The new Ghana president has developed a tendency of talking very harshly towards Western powers, including the French president and all of that. The truth of the matter is, when you analyze our economics, if we do not sort these matters, China will not help us, neither is the West. Look at the issue of the euro debts on Greece. Germany is even proposing to annex some of the islands as part of the compensation from Greece, the ones that are prime for tourist destinations. Now, this is neo-colonialism. And the Chinese are very good, Debal, because they present to you, if you go to a China shop, even in places like Shanghai or Guangzhou, they look very nice, they even give you food, they give you water. You know, you feel like you are in an African homestead. And before you know it, you have already given all your money and they're smiling and they look very harmless. You know, then then you are being told sit here because then you are not of the same color, whatever. We have to be careful and we have to ask ourselves this question. Is there a body in this country, and I'm challenging government now, is there a body where somebody looks at our economy at a macro level properly, leave alone the CBK, leave alone the National Treasury, which has got audit queries itself?
Thank you.
The National Economic and Social Council, where did it go to?
Thank you. We're winding up. We're winding up.
It's important we speak to what should have been done or what could be done, especially about SGR. The standard practice, the best accounting practice would have been that either China itself or a private entity in China should have been given a concession by the government of Kenya to build that railway line, to operate it over some period, recover their money and transfer it to the people of Kenya. It is an accounting practice
Thank you.
that protects the public. Yes.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah. We need to wind up, Dr. Eseli, briefly. Your parting shots.
I think as a nation, yes, we should support the president in his quest for stamping out corruption. But we should see well thought out actions to tackle the corruption. Because I've said on this TV show before that actually corruption starts at budget making. That's why they pad it with all sorts of things. And unless we come out and actually start with a tooth comb going through this, and I believe if the president is very, very firm on this, he should then allow those of us who want to support him to go ahead and do it and not have to look over our shoulders as if we say this, what will come of this.
Thank you.
Especially after the handshake, which has virtually neutered the opposition.
Thank you.
So it's important that we get this clear.
Well, thank you. I think we've said a lot about corruption and SGR. Well, let me say something very different.
Briefly.
That I'm very happy about the peace processes going on in Southern Sudan and in Eritrea and Ethiopia. There cannot be development without peace and security in the region. And if we have this peace, finally, the pact that is signed between Eritrea and Ethiopia, in Southern Sudan with the fighting parties there,
yes,
then we can only have peace in the region. And with that, I can be sure that we are going to have a development, because there cannot be peace without development. So I think it's very important that we are going the way we are going in that regard.
Jacoyo, your closing remarks.
Well, mine is I want to encourage the DCI to arrest more governors so we can curb the new corruption, even as we deal with the national corruption. It would be fair to Kenyans that for us to know that for devolution to take root, we must scare away corruption, which is being exported to the
right. Thank you. Isaac Moro.
You know, in this country, there are only two tents. There are those who are content and those who are discontent. It all depends on how corrupt you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, thank you very much, our panelists. And we want to thank you also for your cogent discussion this morning. I was surprised also you missed this particular headline as we're winding up on the front page of the Business Daily. That is, Communications Authority paid its directors 100,000 shillings as Christmas vouchers. Right? That is on the sidebar story there. They had a wonderful Christmas there. So in light of also communications, I think, Capital Markets Authority governance codes, they're supposed also to be declaring such gifts. I don't know, right? I'll leave it for you to decide for that. Thank you for your valued company. My name is Debal Ainer. And of course, we'll be holding court with legislators here on people and politics. Of course, we'll not relent on the war on corruption. Thank you very much. And of course, I can see a lot of conversation also on social media. I can't be able to read all of that, but I thank you also for your contribution.